In 2017, I was deported from Qatar. Here's my story. I'm using stick figures to help you visualize this because stock images just can't help here. In 2017, I was in college in Canada, living a very stable life. I was 21 years old, studying broadcast media, working 2 part-time jobs, when I got a job offer for an esports venue in Doha, Qatar. Esports like gaming for money. This was my dream job, and the salary was way higher than anything I could ever make in Canada, so I had to take it. Now I'm 21, living in one of the richest countries in the world, making more money than I could ever imagine, tax-free. But the living conditions were horrible, let me tell you. No internet, no hot water, no toilet paper in my villa for the first week. Villa was kind of like a townhouse, I guess, like these houses that were all kind of attached to each other a little bit. So in one was just all males, and in one was just all females, and then it just repeated like that completely all the way down the street. And then across from that was our workspace across the street. We had basically the same type of villas, but used for work purposes. And it was just like this until the esports venue was finished. We didn't live in Doha. We lived in Salal Ali, basically the middle of the desert surrounded by nothing. It's just a gated community. We didn't have an address. We didn't even have a postal code. Kind of eye-opening for a privileged Canadian. Meanwhile, my boss is at the Pearl, high-class tourist area, sipping chai karak. Basically, what I'm trying to say is we have to run across the street into our office if we have to poop. For the first week anyways, it was terrible. But now it's kind of funny now that I look back on it, seeing people run across the street in a hurry. Anyways, the esports team consisted of 4 Filipinos and me, a white guy. Let me introduce you to the team quickly so you have an idea. Although none of these names are real, but it's close enough, okay? First up is Chibi. This was our manager, and she's the one who referred me to the job. I met her in Toronto while I was volunteering, and I still keep in touch with her to this day, and we're still friends. Her boyfriend at the time, let's call him Frank. This guy was convinced he was black instead of Filipino. He spoke like a gangster. He was using slang all the time. He lived in the Midwest US. He only listened to Migos, and I couldn't understand what he was saying half the time. But he was a professional Dota 2 player, so he fit well on the team. Next we have Jason. Jason was a total bro. Basically the best wingman you could have. He just loved to party, drink, and meet girls. And we hung out quite a bit. But I particularly remember this one time he took me to a Korean massage parlor in Doha back before I even knew what a happy ending was. So yeah, that's Jason. Finally, we have Kelsey. She was from the countryside of the Philippines but moved to the US with her boyfriend. She met online a few years before coming to Qatar. So she spoke pretty good English, but this girl was crazy, and you'll find out why very soon. So then there's me, a white guy from a small town in Canada who just had a passion for esports, gaming, and broadcast media. So I didn't really fit in with these Filipinos culturally, but when it came to gaming, I was right at home with them. And also being from a small town in Canada, I'd never met Filipinos before. My town was like primarily white. I've never met Asians before this trip, basically. At the time, I had a girlfriend of 2 years and I had a dog with her. So I gave all that up when I moved to Qatar. I thought I could do long distance, but that's when I met Kelsey. We connected right away, even though I had a girlfriend and she had a boyfriend. We were always spending every day together. Whenever we were outside of work, we were always together trying to find something to do. Now, here's something I learned while I was in Qatar. I learned that Filipino girls love white guys. If I can get a 6 out of 10 white girl, I can get an 8 out of 10 Filipino girl. Basically, you just add 2. I don't fully understand why it works like this, but based on my research, that's how the numbers work. So needless to say, I thought Kelsey was out of my league. But Kelsey and I got really close and we started talking about ending our current relationships and starting a new one together. And it sounded like a really good idea at the time. When you think about it, we were making bank in the Middle East, we were making good money in a job we both loved. So I went through the plan and ended my relationship. So the 2 years and the dog is gone. Now, Kelsey's plan was a little bit different. She started seeing me while still dating her US boyfriend. So now she had 2 boyfriends and she had 2 Instagram accounts. One account with photos of me and her and one account with photos of her and him. This should have been a red flag, but I was lonely and I just ended my one and only relationship with the person closest to me. I just had to go with whatever Kelsey wanted to do. Now, I don't know if you know much about the Middle East or Qatar, but it's under Islamic law, Sharia law, which means if Kelsey and I want to get together and have some fun, well, we can't. But I'm a 21-year-old guy and I'm thinking with the wrong head all the time. You know, my mind can only think about one thing at 21 years old. So I would sneak into her villa every night. And she was cool with it, but the security guards in our gated community were not. It worked for about 2 to 3 weeks. At night, I would hop on the buildings, like on the rooftops of the buildings, and then sneak inside. And then what I didn't realize was they had cameras on the streetlights, and you could see the streetlight cameras could see me hopping from rooftop to rooftop at like 1 a.m. So eventually the security guards caught me one night and they sent me back to my room. Now she tried doing the same thing, sneaking into my room at night, and we tried avoiding these cameras, but they always caught us. Now, none of the other teammates know what's going on with our situation. Frank was too busy with his girlfriend and Jay was too busy, I don't know, at the Korean massage parlors. So this was our secret that we were dating, partially because she was still with her American boyfriend and partially because it was illegal for us to be doing what we're doing. So one night we're at the office and everyone else has left. The work is done for the day. Everyone's back in their villas and their houses. Everyone's gone home and we're there playing games. You know, we're on the esports teams. We're playing games together, just talking, you know, having a good time, enjoying each other's company. When we decide to have a little bit of fun in the office. So we lock the doors, we turn out the lights, and, you know, we have fun. Little did we know, one of the managers was walking through the hallway and they heard us. They heard some sounds going on in there. He reports it to the police and we were questioned by our workplace. So the police showed up and they talked to the security guards, and the security guards mentioned they saw me or caught me going from the rooftops at night. And so this resulted in my immediate dismissal from my job and deportation from Qatar. Now, I was only there for about 4 months before getting deported, and if I played my cards better, I would still be there today. But the story doesn't end there. This is the part of the story where nobody believes me because it just sounds too insane to be true. But I promise you, every single word of this story is true. It just gets crazy. So when I was living in Qatar, I didn't have a bank account. You needed some like extra documents and I don't know, some visa requirements that I didn't have on me. And so I never made a bank account in Qatar. So all of my money was in cash. Every single paycheck I just got in cash, in the Qatari riyals. I couldn't transfer this cash to Canada. I had saved about $3,000 what I made in Canada, which I brought to Qatar. And that was most of my spending money, and that was gone within the first month. I had about $10,000 left over after the 4 months of working. So I had $10,000 in cash, and it was all the money I had, and I'm being deported the next day. They give me my final pay, and I have the 10K. I take the envelope with the 10K inside, and I hide it in bottom of my backpack. All my clothes, wallet, passport, everything else on top of it. So I think it's safe. Like, I don't know, $10,000 cash just sitting at the bottom of a backpack. Like who would go through it was my thought process. Anyways, I boarded the flight and I put my bag in the compartment right above me. And wouldn't you believe it, next to me sits this beautiful Bangladesh girl, about, I want to say 29 or 30 years old. Of course, I'm sad. I'm leaving Qatar. I'm already, you know, in that mindset of I have to go back to Canada, but whatever. A few hours into this flight, everyone's sleeping. And this girl sitting beside me ends up falling asleep as well. But she rests her head on my shoulder. Immediately, 21-year-old me is like, mind's going crazy. Put my head on her shoulder. And then with some like crazy 21-year-old confidence, I have to...
Bam, bop, bada bop, boom. Pow.
So yeah, I don't know if that counts as joining the Mile High Club, but all of that happened without a single word being spoken between us. Afterwards, I got her name, she got my name, and we talked for a little bit. But it was probably the most insane thing that ever happened to me. And if that isn't crazy enough, after I get off the flight, I only slept for a few hours on the flight. I must have been 16 or 17 hours on this flight with a 1 hour layover in Hong Kong. And then when I checked my bag, someone had gone through my bag. They didn't take any passports, any clothes, anything, but they knew there was an envelope there. I don't know how they knew, but they took all the money out of the envelope. All $10,000 was gone, and I had no idea who did it. And there's no way to check because the plane doesn't have any security cameras or anything like that. I asked the flight attendants if they saw anyone like going through my compartment. They said no, nothing I could do. And now that was about maybe halfway through the flight. I noticed someone went through my bag. Now I have to go through, another 8 hours of flight realizing I have no money. I just lost everything. So when I've told this story to my friends, they speculate that it was the girl beside me that did it, but it doesn't really make any sense, as we could tell when someone in our row was like getting up and moving, right? But someone was watching me from this flight. They must have known like a young white guy working in Qatar must have made some decent money. And so I was pretty much one of the few like white guys on the flight. So I was definitely being watched. Once I finally landed in Toronto, I got picked up by my dad. I explained to him what happened and how all of a sudden I don't have any money, zero savings, zero dollars, nothing. Everything got stolen. He didn't believe me. He thought I was lying to him. He still thinks I'm lying to him to this day. And so this happened about 6 or 7 years ago now. So I guess I can kind of give a follow-up on where everyone is right now. So Chibi, the manager who referred me, we're still friends. We still keep in touch every once in a while. She's off doing multiple projects. She started businesses. She sold it. She's doing very well in life. Her ex, Frank, he moved back to the Philippines. I have no idea. I haven't kept in contact with him at all. But I think he's still making gangster noises. Jason, actually, I still keep in touch with him as well. He got married. He has a family. He has a little baby girl now too, a wife and a kid. I talk to him every once in a while. Finally, Kelsey, she's still with that same US boyfriend that she cheated on with me. They're still together. I don't really know what's going on with her recently. I haven't talked to her in years. And for myself, 6 or 7 years later, I started a business. I started multiple businesses that didn't work out. I've kind of moved away from the esports industry. I filed for bankruptcy. Now I'm just living in Toronto, working 9 to 5, making like a quarter of what I made in Qatar. So yeah, that's my story. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like the little stick figure drawings. It's not usual for my channel, but if you do like it, leave a comment and like this video and I'll end up making more because I have more weird, crazy stories that I could probably tell with stick figures. So if you're into it, let me know. Thank you.